I'm Cassandra Stevenson, and this is a special episode of G-Pod. You can find the article that pairs with this podcast at pepperdine-graphic.com. Student A sexually assaults Student B. Student B reports it to the university investigates and finds that Student A violated the university's sexual misconduct policy. What happens to Student A? I talked to some Pepperdine students to see what they thought.
Kicked off campus? Expelled?
They expel them and ask them to leave the university for sure. I don't know if it goes a whole lot further than that, other than providing, I think, counseling for Student B.
Depends on the situation.
I'm really not sure because it's very black and white, and I feel like there's not a black and white answer to that.
The real answer? Well, it's complicated. What happens before, during, and after university investigations of sexual assault is guided by Title IX. It's a law from the Department of Education that prevents discrimination on the basis of sex. It basically requires schools receiving federal funding to investigate all complaints of assault, provide appropriate resources, and take reasonable disciplinary action. But what is considered reasonable can be debated, and because it's tailored to each situation, it's not always clearly defined.
If the respondent is found in violation of violating our sexual assault or any kind of sexual misconduct, then a determination is made about a sanction. And we look at precedent of other cases of a similar charge.
That's Pepperdine Associate Dean of Student Affairs Sharon Beard. At Pepperdine University, she's in charge of handling these cases. She told us about how she and the Student Disciplinary Committee decide what disciplinary actions to take. Just a note, she's going to use some legal terms. The respondent is the person who has been accused of assaulting another student. The complainant is the alleged victim.
So I serve as the chair of the committee, and so I share, if we had a similar situation in the past, what other committees had decided. And then we also look at if a student needs to be removed from the community, how it would impact the complainant if that person was still in the community, or if the respondent was suspended. How about when that person is able to come back, would the other student still be a student? And so we look at a lot of those different factors when we're determining a sanction. And then we also try to look at, is there an educational piece where we could have the student do research and maybe write a paper, or is there something else that we can have some kind of training that the student could go through? Because sometimes they might be found in violation and they really feel like they didn't know that they were doing something wrong. And so we try to address that side of it as well.
At Pepperdine, disciplinary actions can include any combination of a warning, university probation, loss of privileges, restitution, dismissal from the university housing, and required educational programs or assignments. Suspension, expulsion, and permanent dismissal from the university are also options. Some schools look to organizations like the Association of Title IX Administrators for guidance on how to address these cases. Brett Sokolow is the executive director, and he said they have more than 3,500 members.
We certainly have recognized that this is not a field that really develops its own clear industry standards or that can rely on legislative action to do so, except in rare pockets. California's affirmative consent law, for example, establishes an industry standard of sorts. But absent any of those kinds of internal to the field or legislative efforts, it's left to organizations like ours to try to either figure out what those standards are or help the field to elaborate them.
ATICSA recently published a guide on sanctioning that uses precedent and previous court cases to help define those industry standards for schools. But even then, these standards aren't set in stone.
I think any institution can depart from the standards when they've got a decent rationale for doing so.
There are ways for students to seek recourse if they think their case has been mishandled. They can file an appeal with their university or file a complaint with the Office for Civil Rights, which enforces Title IX. They could also sue the university, but then they would have to prove that the school was deliberately indifferent in handling their case, which can be hard to do, Sokolow told us.
Courts are unlikely to second guess a school's sanctioning determination, but where that determination is really outside of any argument for a reasonable decision, then there is that possibility.
For resources about how to report sexual harassment, visit community.pepperdine.edu/Title-IX. The full text of Title IX can be found on the Department of Education's website. Thanks to Ben Sound for the use of the song Piano Moment for this episode. This is G-Pod, and I'm Cassandra Stevenson. Thanks for listening.